Hi, I'm Stephanie, and today we're doing a get ready with me with my September makeup capsule. I shopped my stash to build this one around products that I used to love, especially colorful ones that tend to look really nice on my late summer skin. And I have been focusing on this capsule collection for most of the month, so that means this get ready with me will also be a check-in of sorts where I'll be telling you what worked, what surprised me, and what I think I will be retiring for good at the end of the month. We're gonna start with primer, and this month I don't have one primer that I'm using because I used my favorite up. Just in case you're new here, I usually use the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base, but in the middle of my no-buy, I used mine up. And although I technically could have replaced it according to my rules, I decided to get a bunch of sample packets of different types of primers to see if I might want to try something new instead, and I'm still working my way through them. And so today I'm going to try Sisley's Double Tenseur primer. And this is more expensive than what I normally use, so I'm hoping I won't like it. As always, I'm gonna be working with my palette. I just always wipe it down with 70% alcohol before I start, just to make sure everything's fresh and clean. And now I'm just going to dip in with my primer brush, and I'm only gonna put it on half my face, this primer. Which half should I do? I guess we'll do this half. So this is the only half where I will be wearing primer. My first reaction is it does smell, but it's a very light smell and it doesn't smell super fragrancy. It's not really heavy enough to do that, and I didn't really get enough on my palette, I think. Sisley was very stingy with their little packets here, and that's unfortunate because the product is so expensive, and if it really works as well as I'm hoping, then I would be willing to pay for it, but it would just be nice if I could really get enough to test thoroughly, maybe for a couple of days, just to make sure. And as it stands right now, I think there's just gonna be enough for the use on half of my face, which is kind of lame. But my first impression of it is it feels very lightweight and hydrating, almost like a hyaluronic acid serum. So it doesn't really feel very heavy, but I think it's giving me quite a glow, but just like a moisturizer would. And to prime my under eyes, I'm going to be using some of this Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Eye Base. I just happened to get this as like a package deal with my face base. It's not something I actually went out to buy on purpose, but it's actually been really nice. It's very hydrating. It gives me more glow under the skin. So if you're looking for more radiance, it might be a nice little under eye primer. But I know that some people don't like to use under eye primer because they feel like it just makes the concealer and stuff crease a little bit more. I have very dry under eyes, so I feel like I don't have that problem. Concealer tends to stay relatively well underneath my eyes, but this kind of just gives me a more hydrated look. And the thing is, I don't actually like too radiant of a finish under my eyes because I feel like it emphasizes the hollows that I have. So, I mean, it's not maybe the most radiant thing ever. It's not like putting a highlighter on under your eyes. Next, I'm gonna scoop out some of my Salt New York Olive Green Sneaky Balm and use it as a color corrector on my cheeks because they are a little bit pink in my nose, as you can see. That's normal for me, which is why I have a green color corrector. So I'm just gonna use this Zoeva 110 Face Shape brush, and as always, I just kind of press the brush into the product and really get it into those bristles. And I don't like jam my brush in there, but I use a decent amount of force just to make sure that it spreads out throughout the bristles, and I can be much more gentle on my face. I think I'm gonna go into this side first just because there's no primer here, but let me see. This side feels just a tiny bit sticky, but it's barely there. I almost wonder if I waited 5 more minutes, if it wouldn't be sticky at all. Although here, no, it is a little bit sticky. So we'll see what that does to the makeup application process. But we will apply this Salt New York Green color corrector on the naked side of my face first, just to see if there's any difference in how it goes on. Now let's try it on the primed side. I do feel like it's going on a little bit easier on this side, but I don't know if that's just wishful thinking on my part because I want a miraculous primer. So now the green color corrector is on both sides of my face. I'm going to take a look in my magnifying mirror And I have to say, I like the Sisley side better. The Sneaky Balm on its own always looks really natural and really good, and it does that here too. And here, I just feel like my skin looks a little bit more even and more ethereal texture-wise. I feel like color-wise, I still see some of the redness on both sides of my face, but that's okay because I'm not trying to completely cover it up. I'm just trying to reduce it a little bit so that the foundation doesn't have to work as hard. That way I don't have to put as thick a layer on. And I like the finish of this side better because it's just more glowy and more hydrated, but without looking wet or too glassy. I know that glass skin was really in for a while there, but I just felt like it always looked a little bit weird on me, maybe because I do have texture. If my face was completely smooth, I think I would have liked the glass skin look, but because it's not, I didn't. And now I feel like this is just a really natural, hydrated version. Oh gosh. Okay, you know what I'm gonna have to do? I'm gonna have to go get another sample of this, and I'm gonna have to directly compare it to a sample of the Bobbi Brown to then see how they work, because right now this one is at least equal to, if not better than, the Bobbi Brown, but of course I'm not done applying my makeup yet. So let's move on. Sticking with color corrector, I'm gonna go in with my under eye corrector from Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Magic Vanish color corrector in shade 2 medium. This is still my favorite color corrector. I just find that the color is perfect for me and it gives me a really smooth finish that's not heavy. I like applying it with this lip brush. It's the W19, but I honestly think any lip brush would be good at applying it. I just like it because I feel like it gives me the smoothest application, because I do have a little bit of texture under my eyelids as well, and this just kind of helps hide all that, I think. I like to focus most of the application where my darkness is at its worst, which is right at the inner corner there. But then of course I do like to take it down because the shadow kind of continues until almost the iris of my eye. Pressing it into the skin after just really seems to give me the ideal finish and coverage level. Now for concealer, I'm using the Lancôme Teint Idole Ultra Wear All Over Concealer. It is the only liquid concealer I still have. I've used up everything else or it went bad on me. So I'm trying to use this one up before it expires, and I'm getting very close. I actually thought I was gonna have to buy more before the end of the month because I can see that there's only about this much left in here. But as always, it takes longer to use up makeup than I think it will. So it's still going strong. I haven't had to buy any more of that yet. And I'm still deciding whether I want to just repurchase that because I am very happy with it. But I have long wanted to try several concealers. One of them, I think the one that's been on my wish list the longest, is the Sisley concealer. And half of me just really wants to try that. And half of me is just like, use what you know. It works really well. So we'll see which one ends up winning, what I end up doing. I like to take my concealer from my inner corner down the side of my nose because I just feel like it makes my nose look just a little bit slimmer than it actually is. So I can kind of contour my face that way. It almost like makes my cheek look like it comes in further when I do that. That's what I think happens anyway. Maybe you'll disagree with me in the comments. That's always interesting to read. I like this Bobbi Brown full coverage touch-up brush because it's really soft. I used to use the one from Angie Hot and Flashy from BK Beauty, but everybody said that brush was so soft, but it just felt like little needles going into my under eye. I don't know if I just have really sensitive skin. I think that might be it, but that one was just too rough for me, so I ended up decluttering it. And this is my primary concealer brush nowadays. I just feel like it does the job without irritating my skin, and it feels a lot silkier. It's like what I wish the Angie Hot and Flashy brush had felt like. It's a slightly different shape. I did like the shape of that Angie Hot and Flashy brush. I just thought it was a little bit too big for my face because I have a small face, and it was too spiky. And this one seems to solve all of the problems that I had with that one. We're coming to the first of the products that I now specifically chose for summer because of the color. This is the Kevyn Aucoin Contrast Stick in the shade Tone, and I bought this during Contourgate a couple of years ago now, where I was desperately looking for a new contour since my favorite one got discontinued, and the formula of this really is lovely, but the color wasn't quite right for me, and I thought, you know what, I keep trying it in winter when my skin is really pale, so I wonder what happens if my skin is darker and warmer like it is in the summer. So I put this in my bag for that purpose, and I do have to say it does work better for me now, but it is not ideal. So this is the first product that I will be moving on out of my life, and I will be giving to a friend with different coloring than me because I think it might suit her better. And one of the things that I've been doing to make this work is I use it for underpainting. I cannot use it on top of my foundation because it's too red. It looks almost like, I don't know, a very sunburned bronze, which actually is a look that I like, but I just find that it doesn't suit me as a contour. So I'm just gonna apply this underneath my foundation, and I find that that way I can make it work. But I've decided I don't wanna keep cream products that I have to make work with, you know, special tips and tricks, and they only work for me during part of the year. Life's too short for that, and I already own some cream contours that I really, really, really like that work for me all year round, and I don't have to fight with as much color-wise. So, like I said, I have no complaints about this formula. I think it blends really easily. I think it looks really nice when it's blended out. It doesn't get patchy or anything. I like the fact that I can play with how dark it is because it's buildable. It's just that the color really isn't for me. It's almost too much of a bronzer, but I don't think that I would want to use it as a cream bronzer because it just doesn't have the right undertone for that either. It's kind of like all wrong for me, no matter which way I go. It just wasn't made for my skin tone, which is perfectly fine. It was just a bad decision on my part. That's what happens when you buy online though. You can't always tell exactly what the undertones are gonna be like. So this contour is a little bit stronger than I would normally do, but that's okay because we're gonna be putting foundation over it. That's the magic of underpainting. Now I'm gonna apply my Estee Lauder Double Wear Foundation. This is my summer shade. I no longer buy summer and winter shades of foundation. I now just buy my winter shade, and I use a liquid bronzer to kind of warm it up a little bit. And I find that that's just a lot easier. Ever since my tragic foundation declutter, I'll link that here and in the show notes in case you want to watch it, I'm trying to be really careful about only buying enough foundation that I can realistically use up before it expires. And so one of the ways I can do that is just buying my winter shade. And that way it still works for me all year round as long as I have bronzer, some, you know, liquid bronzer to mix with it. And right now I'm using the Makeup by Mario one for that. But because I still had this from my days where I was still purchasing summer shades, I want to use it up. So I'm going to use my BK Beauty 101 brush, and I'm going to use the same old technique I always use. I'm just really pounding it into the bristles so that they get all over the place, and then I'm just gonna tap it in. I'm gonna go on the non-primer side first. And as you can see, that underpainting just kind of disappeared under the foundation, but I can still see almost a bit of a shadow. So it did the shaping for me, and it does work like this, just this underneath, but I like to be more flexible. The other ones that I have that are a better color, they work underneath for as underpainting, and they also work on top if I need it, which is great because sometimes I want to do underpainting, but I forget. So I want to add some contour after the fact, and this doesn't give me that flexibility. So if I was traveling and this is all I had, I'd be in a little bit of a bind. So now I'm going to apply it over the primed side, and we'll see how different that looks. This is a really great foundation for me to be testing primers with because I know it so well. I know that some people don't like it because it's matte and it's full coverage, but I find that the matte full coverage nature of it makes it super flexible. Like if I need it to be a thin, dewy foundation, I can do that. I just need to use the right technique. But I want to see what it looks like just on its own with this primer today. Once again, I'm checking in with my magnifying mirror, and I have to say, the difference is subtle, but it's there. I do like the way my foundation is sitting on this side better than on this side. But I'm honestly not sure if it's worth the high price tag. I'm really gonna have to get another sample of it and try it against the Bobbi Brown. But we are not done with cream products yet because I chose this Bobbi Brown blush in powder pink. And this one is really on its last legs, and that's good because it's on its way to expiring. If I wasn't able to use it up by the end of the month, I was going to be tossing the rest anyway because it's really getting to the point where I probably shouldn't be using it. But I am pretty sure that this is gonna be used up because normally I scrape product out and I put it on the palette and I can't even scrape any product out anymore. There's not enough to scrape out. So now I'm just going in directly with the brush, which is something I don't normally do, but at this late stage of the game, I figure why not. And now I'm going on the back of my hand to get some of that product off because it would just be too much. That's why I like using the palette because I find that doing it on the palette tends to give me the perfect amount of product on the brush. But this way, I really like this color. This is for me the perfect summer pink. And now that it's gone, I definitely don't need to repurchase it right now because it really is perfect for me in summer. And now that my tan is going to be fading, I don't need to go buy another summer blush. But it is definitely the sort of thing I'm thinking about picking up again next year when the summer comes around. But I'm not going to stress out about it because who knows, maybe I will find something that I love even more in the meantime. So for now, I am just thoroughly enjoying the last days of using this one. I like to take it up onto my brow bone. I just feel like that helps the look a little bit more cohesive when I'm done. It might look a little crazy right now, but I do like the end effect that it gives me once the eyeshadow and everything else is on. And sometimes I like to go on the sides of my nose, but I just like to barely do it to kind of emphasize the contour. And because in the summer I tend to flush everywhere, I just take the rest that's on my brush and I'll put it around up top and on my chin, just to kind of give myself that summer flush. But this is what powder pink looks like when it's all blended out. And I just think it's a nice brightening shade, like it's an enlivening shade, and it's almost a little bit too much for me in the winter. I can wear it all year round, but I just tend to like it best when I have a tan like this. Yet another piece of makeup that works really well on tan skin for me is this Tom Ford Shade and Light Duo. I have it in shade 1, which is a little bit dark for me in the winter, but I can use it in the summer to my heart's content. And to be honest, I think sometimes I overdo it, but that's okay. I don't mind. I don't have to be perfect. I'm just doing this for fun. So being a little bit overly bronzed is great, especially when it's not from sun damage because it's just from my makeup and I can wash it right off. This has been a favorite of mine for a very long time. I have been using it, like really using it for years. There is so much product in this package. It's kind of insane. So I'm really happy about that because as we all know, Tom Ford products are not cheap, but the good thing is I can use this to my heart's content and it almost never seems to run out. I mean, obviously I've hit pan now, but I've had pan in here for I think 2 years now and I'm still working on it. It's still going strong. So the pans are deep with this one. And this is the sort of thing I also like to take onto my brow bone. I have a really heavy brow bone, so I feel like putting a little bit of color in there and making it a little bit darker kind of helps it to recede a little bit and blend in more with the rest of my face. And it just makes it a little bit less prominent. But that's a very face shape specific thing that I'm doing there. And of course also it looks a little bit weird if I don't have any tan anywhere else, so I take it up here and then the rest is just gonna go on my nose. My concealer is a little bit light for me this time of year. It's very highlighty. I think the smartest thing to do would be to experiment with my liquid bronzer. So maybe I should actually try that. I haven't. There's still time this month though. I can still do that. And I'm also gonna put some of this Hollywood Flawless Filter on. I have it in shade 3, which in the winter time I can still use, but it looks kind of peachy on me then. It looks kind of peachy on me now too, but my skin is dark enough to hold its own, so this does look like a highlighter now. Whereas it can almost look almost like a blush lighter maybe in the winter, which is why I like to use my Auric, because I have that in a different lighter shade. So this is one of my summer products because of the shade. And I know that several people suggested that I try using this as a primer, and so I did, and I have to say it was a fail for me. So I won't be doing that again, but I tried. And I can see why some people would like it. It was just way too heavy. It made my skin feel so weighed down, and I feel like it really emphasized my pores, which is funny because it doesn't when I use it as a luminizer. So go figure. But that's the beauty of makeup. What works for one person doesn't work for someone else because we're all just very different. Now that I have like 30 different very thin layers of cream on my face, I definitely need to set them because I am oily combination skin. So I'm gonna use my discontinued Givenchy Prisme Libre powder. I wanted to put this one in the bag this month because I want to remind myself to enjoy my things even when they are discontinued, because makeup is meant to be used, not kept as a museum piece, unless of course you're a collector. But for me, I just decided I want to use makeup as my form of zen, where I can just kind of lay back, relax, enjoy what I have. And for me, that means using it. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm just gonna start by setting up here. I feel like the Charlotte Tilbury really needs to be set on me. And what I like about the Givenchy Prisme Libre powder is it does take down the shine of the luminizer, but it doesn't make it completely dull. It kind of gives this beautiful satin finish. And that's why I'm so sad that this powder was discontinued. Because although I did find that the About-Face powder has a very similar finish to this, it doesn't last on me. So it'll give me that finish for about 20 minutes. And then it's almost like I'm not wearing any powder at all. Whereas this, I find I can wear all day, and it isn't the strongest setting powder I've ever used, but it's enough for me, and I really like it. So I am still on a search for the ideal powder replacement once this one's gone. So now I'm gonna go in with another discontinued product. It's this NARS Orgasm on the Beach palette. And NARS releases these palettes every year, and I'm just glad that I have this one because they're always so similar. I don't feel the need to go get another one. They're usually really good quality, but I've heard that some years are better than others, and apparently I lucked out, and this is one of the good ones. So if you also have this, I feel like it's the perfect time of year to break this out. And I think I'm gonna be doing a somewhat, for me, colorful eye look today. So you'd think I'd go with a muted blush, like maybe this one, but no, I think I'm gonna go with Orgasm right there. Yeah, the shine on the cheek is really nice with this one. Although, I don't know, it might be a little bit much for me just because I do have some texture there, but I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm on my own tonight, so that means no one's gonna see this makeup look anyway. And I don't even think I need highlighter with this particular blush because it is so dewy. So I'm just gonna leave it like that. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you might be familiar with my Panning for Gold series. That's where I take two very similar makeup products and I wear them side by side for a while and decide if I really need both of them. And I was doing that with bronzer this month, actually. I was comparing my Hoola bronzer in the original bronzer shade to Gucci shade 3 because both of these are great summer colors for me and I wanted to see which formula would be better. And now I feel like I can tell you my thoughts. We are going to, let's see, we're gonna put the Gucci on this side today because I do like the way that my makeup is sitting better on this side because of that primer. And what I have to say is I really like the finish of this Gucci powder better. I feel like there really is something to it. It just is smoothing, it's blurring, it blends beautifully, it's a gorgeous summer shade on me, and I just really, really enjoy the Gucci. There's a reason it is my favorite bronzer. ever since I finally let myself get it this year after 5 long years of waiting. And that's good to know. Like, I'm glad that it holds up in direct comparison, because I'm sure there are things that I might be on my wish list that aren't as good as what I already have. And so I just need to be enjoying what I've got. But the Gucci shade 3 is on this side, and now we're gonna go in with the Hoola bronzer. And what I really like about this one is the color. The finish isn't quite as nice. I feel like sometimes I have to work a little bit harder to get a blend. I mean, it's an excellent formula, so I'm not complaining about it, but just in comparison to the Gucci, I just feel like it doesn't blend quite as well. It doesn't sit quite as lightly on the skin, and it isn't blurring at all. But I do really like the shade on me. So I think I might end up keeping it, because shade really does have a whole lot of weight when I'm comparing things like this. I did my eyebrows off camera with my Anastasia Brow Wiz in the shade Taupe, and now I'm going in with this Natasha Denona Lila Palette. Isn't she lovely? Oh, she is. And to be fair, the 3 shades I have used most in this palette throughout its lifetime has been these 3 by far. I think almost every time I reached into this palette, it was specifically for these 3 shades. That seems to happen a lot to me actually with the colorful Natasha Denona palettes. Her I Need a Nude and I Need a Warm, I feel like I use every shade across the whole palette. But when it comes to color, I tend to just usually pick about 3 shades in a palette that I like, and I just stick to them. And so I tried to force myself to go outside the box a little bit, and I did, and we're gonna go outside the box again today. We'll be starting off with the neutral shades to do a little bit of contouring of the eye, but then we will move on to the more colorful pans once I'm getting towards the lash line in the outer V. I've just found that that's the most comfortable way I can wear color right now. I don't know if it's my eye shape or my face shape or my coloring, or if it's just solely a matter of taste, but I feel like when I use these vivid colors on my heavy brow bone, it kind of makes it look heavier and more prominent than it is, and it just kind of weighs down my face a little bit. As much as I would really like to try to be more courageous, I just realized I can do that when I'm at home and doing my midnight makeuping when no one's going to see me, but if I'm gonna create a look that a bunch of people are gonna see, or if I'm gonna be going out, then I tend to like to stick more towards my comfort level. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because I'm just doing this all for fun. It's not like I have to prove a point to anyone about how brave I am with color. And so I'm just taking this shade here. It's just a nice, it's like a purpley shade that's not too purple. It's a beautiful contour shade, and I feel like it brings out the green in my eyes. My eyes can turn green or blue depending on what I'm wearing, and I feel like this kind of pushes them more in the direction of green. Then I'll take this one here and bring it more towards the lower part, that outer corner, get some depth in there. I love it when people do colorful eyeshadow looks. I admire them out on the street, I admire them online and in magazines, and then when I try to do the same thing on me, I always end up feeling a little bit like a clown. And it's not because I care necessarily what people think, because I do all sorts of crazy stuff without caring what people think. But when it comes to colorful eyeshadow, for some reason, that's where my confidence draws the line. This palette, I don't know when it came out, but I think I did get it relatively close to when it was first released, so it is up there in years. But I find these matte shades are blending beautifully. They work beautifully, they stay beautifully without fading. They're still performing magnificently. I'm gonna take this little silicone applicator I have from Sephora, and I'm just gonna tap it into this gold shade. And that's gonna kind of go in the center. Look at that payoff. When I think about how old this palette is and how well it still works, that makes me very happy. Because I have to say, I haven't actually found all that many eyeshadows going bad. I find that that's more a problem I tend to have with cream and liquid products. But one of my Anastasia palettes, or actually two of them, did go off. So I have had issues with that brand just not performing well anymore. But this palette, however old it is, it's still performing really nicely. Although I do find that, like, I used to get a smoother look to the lids with this, and I'm not sure if it's just because my lids are more textured now or if because the formula isn't quite as creamy as it was, but I do feel like the formula is a little bit drier. So this is one I'm going to be watching because I'm not sure how long it's going to really last for me. Here's where we're going to get into the color, and what I want to do is I'm going to take this, let's see, we'll start with the pink shade here. I'm going to get a decent amount of that on my brush, and I'm going to put this in the outer corner and kind of mix it with the gold a little bit. Yeah, almost like a sunset sort of eye, where you're getting those warm colors all kind of mixing together. I really like the contrast of this pinky purple against the gold. Yeah, these aren't quite as smooth as they used to be, that's for sure. So they are changing, but they still blend beautifully and they look gorgeous on the eye. They're still performing well. So I have no complaints. The fact that I haven't used it enough maybe is my only complaint. So I'm just gonna blend that in up there. And now we're gonna go into the deeper purple here, which is not a color I typically use because it's cool toned, and I tend to be a warm tone girl, but I just think that this is gonna look absolutely gorgeous with that gold underneath. I think it's gonna be a great contrast. And it fades nicely into that pink. I'm taking that darker color onto the lower lash line as well, but I want to keep that on the outer third because then I want to go back in with the pink. I don't know, this is kind of dangerous. You don't usually want to go in with pink too close to the eye, but you won't tell anybody if I do this wrong, right? We're just playing. And then we'll go in with the gold. And then on the very inner corner, I want to go in with my favorite shade in the whole palette. Do I? Or do I want to go in with the lightest shade? Yeah, no, we're going to go in with the lightest shade. My favorite shade in the whole palette, I think, might be this one. It's the shade Helio. It is also in the retro palette. And this is one of my favorite shades, but I feel like I like it better in the Lila palette. I feel like it has always felt creamier to me in this palette than it did in the retro, and that's why I like it better. But I want to go in with this shade here. This is the shade Juno, and that's going to be my inner corner highlight. Yeah, for me, this is pretty darn colorful. It might not be for some people, but for me, no. Now we're gonna go in with the shade Mixtape from Melt Cosmetics. This shade is really old and it's discontinued. And it's not as creamy as it used to be, that's for sure. But it's still impactful and I still really like it. I'm trying to take a really thin line towards the inner corner. I don't want it to be as thick as on the outside, but it's a little tricky. This formula isn't ooey gooey and soft anymore. Now, just because I can, I'm gonna take another liner. This wasn't in my makeup bag this month, but it's my NYX Epic Ink Liner in black. And I just wanna take this right next to my lash line because I want to make sure that my lashes look nice and thick since I will be using a black mascara today. And I just find that having a nice thin line helps that illusion of thickness. And this, because it's a liquid, I can take it a little bit further in, get that really thin line right at the inner part of the lashes. And today I'm going to try something I normally do with my Hourglass finishing powder, but instead I'm going to try it with my Sisley Blur Expert. Normally I use this on my nose, but I was out in the sun a lot last week, and so my nose is peeling a little bit, and when it's peeling, nothing helps, not even the best nose primer, just because it's like a physical issue. But I want to see if I can use this as a finishing powder to soften up this line. So let's see how that goes. And I'm also going to use this powder brush to kind of brush away some of the fallout that I got from the Lila palette. It wasn't a lot, but there was some. I do feel like the Blur Expert did soften that line a little bit. It doesn't give me the same nice glowy finish that I get with my Hourglass powder, but it does work. So I think I still prefer my Hourglass powder in that capacity. When it came to the lip products I chose this month, I'm not sure they entirely met my goal. Originally, I had said since I was going to be doing some more color on the eyes, I wanted to make sure that I went pretty neutral on the lips. And so I chose this Gucci shade, the Painted Veil, in the satin shade of the lipstick. And I chose this shade from Sisley, Beige Tahiti. And both of them are gorgeous on their own, but I feel like they might have been almost a little bit dark for my taste. But I'm gonna put both of them on so you can let me know which one you like better with this look. First though, I'm gonna start with the MAC lip liner in Spice. And first we'll go with Gucci's The Painted Veil. A little bit lighter and a little bit pinkier than Spice, but they go together really nicely. I guess it's not that bad. I just think of like a totally nude lip when I think of this kind of eye look, and this to me is not a nude lip. It's a beautiful lipstick, but it's definitely got some color to it. So I'm gonna take off the Gucci, and now we'll try Sisley Beige Tahiti. This shade has a little bit more brown to it, and I think maybe I like it better because it's less colorful, because the other one is more pink. I don't know. Which one did you like better? What I would personally gravitate towards is more of a nude lip, so something lighter like this. This is Charlotte Tilbury's JK Magic, and I bring this out all the time because this is my go-to beige lipstick. If I want a nude lip, this is usually what I'm wearing, and I just feel like I would have felt a little bit more comfortable having this in the bag, but I do feel like these worked. I don't feel like this was horrible, especially since I was doing neutral looks on my eyes a lot. Then it was perfectly fine for me to be wearing more of a lipsticky lipstick. But out of the two formulas, I actually think I like the Sisley better because it feels a little bit more lightweight. They're both absolutely lovely, but the Gucci feels a little bit heavier on my lips, whereas this one feels really lightweight, almost like a lip balm, but like a really... I'm just thinking that the color might be a little bit much together with the eyes. Although now that I'm looking at the eyes, I think maybe I want to go with the Gucci. I'll be right back. I don't know. They're both nice. You know, I think I'm gonna stick with the Gucci. And now what we're gonna do is go through my bag and I'm gonna tell you what my decisions are. When it comes to the Hoola bronzer, I really like the color. Like I really, really like the color, but the formula does not hold a candle to my Gucci. So I don't know, it's kind of hard. I think color is important. I think it's important enough for me to keep it at least for now, but it is something I'm going to keep in mind that although the color is beautiful, I have other formulas that I enjoy so much more. If you have a color dupe of this that has a lightweight blurring formula like the Gucci, let me know, because I have to say, like, this color is spectacular. That's one of the reasons it's been a classic for so long, I think. When it comes to the Kevyn Aucoin Contour Stick in Tone, it will be leaving my collection despite the absolutely lovely formula because it just is the wrong tone for me. And although it is good for underpainting, I have other cream contours that I can use for both underpainting and over the top of foundation. And I think it makes more sense that I just invest my time and energy and enjoyment into those things instead of trying to force myself to use this one up, because I have a feeling I might not be able to get through all of them in time if I do that. So this will be rehomed. My Bobbi Brown Pot Rouge in the shade Powder Pink will also be leaving the bag at the end of the month, but only because it will be gone. There's so little in there that I can't even scrape it out with my spatula anymore, so I'm just using it directly with the brush, and I have no doubt that I will be able to use this up by the end of the month. Now this one is the hardest for me, Natasha Denona Lila. This has long been a palette that I've really enjoyed, but I've only ever really used these 3 shades in the palette. I mean, I have used the rest, but for the most part, every single time I reached for this, it was these 3 shades. And I'm wondering if it might be time to say goodbye to it. It's something I'm seriously considering because I do know for a fact that the shimmer formulas are changing. They still perform well, but I'm just wondering, since they are getting drier, if maybe it's time to say goodbye. I don't know. Maybe I'll put this back in my drawer, but I will consider. I'm gonna do an end of year declutter, and when I do that, maybe that will be the impetus to finally say goodbye to this one, especially because I do have a lovely palette from Viseart that's also in the purple direction, so maybe I'll have to do some panning for gold and seeing if that one could effectively take this one's place. So if you want to follow me along and see what happens, then make sure you subscribe. But the good news is I did a good job of picking out colors that would really pop on my tan. And I actually got some use out of them. Of course, it wasn't in the crazy eye looks that some people do, but I do think that this kind of colorful look really was fun for me to do. It was fun for me to step out of my box in my own way, and I thought it was the perfect time of year to do that. So as far as that aspect of the bag, the color aspect, I hit the nail right on the head. So that's my September makeup capsule in action. What it taught me is that remembering what I have can be just as satisfying as discovering something new, maybe even more so. And now is a good time of year to be remembering that, considering that all of the holiday releases are rushing at me like an avalanche. I'm not saying I'll never buy new makeup again, but shopping my stash this way has definitely reminded me how much joy is already waiting for me in my vanity drawers. I'd love to know if there's anything that you've recently rediscovered. Have you pulled any old treasures out of your vanity lately that are reminding you how wonderful they are? If so, please let me know what they are in the comments. I love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this, then stick around for my upcoming October makeup capsule, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out this video here. Thanks for hanging out, and to all of my patrons and channel members, including my Adagio angels, for making content like this possible. I hope we can all remember that even stumbling can be a form of moving forward. So let's stumble in style.